bang on time for NTV News at 1. My name is Debarl. 237 Kenyans have died as a result of floods from the ongoing heavy rains. According to Devolution Cabinet Secretary Eugene Wamalwa, Budalangi and Nyando are among areas that have been hit hard. It is predicted that the country will continue to receive heavy rains until the month of June.
Those Kenyans who are affected, in terms of households affected, we did disclose to you in the last briefing, we had 122,000 Kenyans affected. As of this morning, that number has risen significantly to 161,000 households affected, meaning we have almost 807,000 Kenyans who are affected by these floods. And with the rain still going on, our dams still filling, we expect that more will be affected.
Over the weekend, again, suffer an additional problem with the other water source into Nairobi from Sasumua Dam also being affected, which means now the turbidity of the water from Ngedo main distribution combined with the Sasumua Dam is giving us a shortfall of about 20% of the water that we require in Nairobi.
The county government of Baringo now wants the national government to fund the relocation of more than 30,000 people who have been displaced by floods. Water levels continue to rise in Lakes Baringo and 94, forcing the residents to relocate to temporary shelters. Locals say this is the highest the waters of Lake Baringo have risen in recent times. More than 5 schools have been submerged. The Kenya Fisheries Research Center and a dispensary bordering the lake remain in water. The Ilchamus community, which inhabits the low-lying areas of the county bordering Lakes Baringo and Bogoria, are among the worst affected. Some islands within the Lake Baringo have also been submerged.
Saa hii tukiongea watu wanahamishwa kwa meli kwa sababu hakuna mtu mwenye anaweza kufuga haya maji yote. So meli ndio inafugisha wanyama, na ile tatizo tuko nayo kubwa sana yale mashule ambayo siko hapo. Saa hii hao watoto wanaenda kufanya exam. Kuna hii janga la corona ikiendelea na hii yetu. So hii tuko na double tragedy.
The government has given us food to give to the people who have been displaced. Actually, most of those who have been displaced have been sheltered by their relatives who are on the higher grounds. So what we've done so far, we've given them food, which I'm sure in some of the sublocation is still being distributed. But here in Kambia Samaki, a Korean sublocation, food has been distributed to those people who have been affected, even in Loruk.
What I want to appeal to the national government is that we can compensate them. They can come and take this part. If it is 100 acres, they can take 100 acres and look for another land of 100 acres and then make this one to be a forest. If there is a forest which is maybe in a position that the people can actually live on, they can actually come to the hills, they take that, and then we plant trees, becomes a forest, and then transfer this population to another area. And then we are not going to defeat the aspect of reforestation or afforestation. We are going to still maintain the same.
Now, after Migori County reported 3 new cases of coronavirus disease, police officers at the Isebania border conducted raids early on Wednesday and arrested 10 people who were sneaking into the country from Tanzania. Among them were 4 Tanzanian nationals who were heading to Masara for mining jobs. The 10 are currently being held at Isebanja Port Health pending further action. Locals want the government to increase the number of officers at the border to control the movement. Police say many of those crossing illegally are using borders to do so. Now we're joined by Bernard Ojwang, who will just tell us more about this, but I'm given to understand we're having technical challenges right now. We'll get back to Bernard much later in the course of the program. In the meantime, as the government moves to expand its presence along the border points in a bid to facilitate COVID-19 mass testing, especially in the Kenya-Tanzania border, there's still concerns that the government needs to move fast and cover all other borders. Kenya continues to battle the COVID-19 spread with cases steadily rising from cross-border movements. Ruth Munyi has more on this.
The Ministry of Health is on high alert on this high-risk border point, with truck drivers and Kenyans living along the Kenya-Tanzania border Lunga not being spared in this fight against COVID-19. There is a growing concern in this area where most locals are not adhering to the government directives to avoid spreading of the virus.
Amri yenu haiko Tanzania, iko hapa. As long as umeamua kuishi katika mpaka yetu, utafuata yale ya hapa.
Dado was speaking while upscaling the inspection of truck drivers' mass testing at the Lunga border point. The local area MCA also urged residents to obey the government directives to curb the spread of the disease.
Hii maradhi iko. Hata nikwambie ndugu yangu, rafiki yangu, maana bwana nani ni rafiki yangu sana, tunajuana kwa muda mrefu. Hii maradhi sisi tunakaa hapa, lakini tuko na jamaa zetu wanapoteza maisha yao hapo Tanga.
Locals here have raised concerns over the importation of the virus from Tanzania due to the increased activity along the borderline. Ruth Munyi, NTV.
Well, back to our Migori County story. We had seemed to have lost Bernardo Juang, but now we have him online. Bernard, good to see you. How are you?
Thank you very much, Debarl. We are here at Isebania border. Remember, it is an operation that started very in the morning as police officers were moving around the border, at least to ensure that nobody is coming or moving out of the country. Remember, during the operation, the police officers who were manning that operation managed to arrest 10 people. 4 of them were Tanzanian citizens who had already sneaked into the country on border, and they were saying that they were heading to Migori to look for jobs. And of course, currently as we speak, they have been put in a quarantine, and as the police officers waiting for an ambulance at least to take them to Mabera, where they will be put there for 14 days. Remember, since morning the police have been moving around, and the locals both from Kenya and also Tanzania have been engaging the police in running battles. And of course, the police officers, they have said that they will not relent and they will not ensure that no one is coming into the country. But according to the locals whom I talked to, they were saying that they are blaming the government because it is the right time now that they have to increase the number of police officers at least to man the border, because each and every time the people from Tanzania are crossing in the name of doing business. And remember, recently we had Migori County Governor Zachary Kotobado saying that they are going to ensure that nobody will come into the country in the name of business, and whoever will be found, be it Kenyan or Tanzanian, will be put in a forceful quarantine and also on their own cost. And of course, since morning we've been here walking around the police officers, seeing how they are doing. And what has surprised many here, most of the people who are crossing from Tanzania, they are using borders. And of course, the police officers here, they are saying that they're urging border operators at least to ensure that they keep their people safe and not bring people from Tanzania. And before I come back to you, I'll speak to only one person from this year. We saw police officers wakitembea hapa wakishika doria. Je, unaona ni kwa nini mbona watu wanavuka boda?
Yes, kwa majina yangu kamili naitwa Mr. John Bernard Murimi kutoka mji wa Isebania. Na hapa Isebania vile tunaona kasi ya serikali inaendelea iko vizuri, kwa sababu huu ugonjwa umekuwa ni tishio kubwa. Kwa mfano upande wa Kuria East na Kuria West tumepata shida kubwa sana. Na tungependa kweli maafisa wa polisi waendelee kufanya kazi, watende haki kwa wananchi. Na kweli vile tumesema kwamba ndugu zetu wa Tanzania wasifuke kuja Kenya, ni ukweli, kwa sababu ule ugonjwa unaonekana watu wote ambao wamepatikana upande wa Kenya ni wale wametoka Tanzania. Kwa hivyo tungeomba ndugu zetu pia tusaidiane, wase wa nyumba 10 wasaidiane, vile tunaona kazi inaendelea, tusaidiane kwa uzuri bila kudhulumu mtu yeyote.
Asante sana. Debarl, you've just heard from the locals there. They are saying that they are really appreciating what the police officers did today, and they are urging them at least to continue. Remember, we've been here and will be here till the end of the operation for our subsequent noting. And remember, at 7 p.m. and also 9 p.m. we'll be bringing you these stories as they happened here. Back to you.
Right, many thanks indeed, Bernardo Juang there. And we know that this particular borders also are becoming flashpoints for the spread of COVID-19. And with that also, the drivers are complaining as the East African region grapples with the rise of COVID-19 cases among truck drivers. The hauliers have complained of stigmatization. They've also called on the Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda and Tanzania governments to adopt harmonized standards on the transportation of cargo in order to contain the spread of the virus. Landlocked Uganda and Rwanda, which rely on Kenya and Tanzania as ports, have adopted a relay system where all trucks are offloaded and sanitized before being handed over to nationals. Tanzania is seen as an outlier in the region over its handling of the crisis, coming under fire for concealing information on the number of cases and failing to take strict enough measures. The country is only checking the temperatures of drivers at the border.
Huniuma roho sana, roho inaniuma sana, manaki Waganda wakituona wanatuita we corona, umebeba corona from Kenya, driver umetoka poti wewe umekuja na corona. Sasa tunashindwa sisi tumebeba mzigo, tumebeba mzigo, hatujabeba corona. Sasa driver si kama sisi tunaonewa.
Kiambu County has today received 100 isolation beds in a bid to prepare itself against COVID-19. Kenya Medical Training College in Thika has received 50 of the beds, while the rest will be distributed to various quarantine centers across the country. NTV's Judith Cherono has more on this.
The beds made of recycled materials such as plastic, bottles and polythene bags that make it resistant to water, fire and bacteria was donated by Kevian Kenya Limited.
Let's all prepare for the unexpected. Let's all sacrifice our money and our time to join hands and to bring this awareness to our people. And for sure, if we all do lead by example, changes will come and we'll be able to fight this COVID collectively and together.
The company, through its chairman, expressed the need for the government to adequately arm the health providers to ensure they are prepared and well protected as they fight coronavirus.
When the patients come here, they are able to be self-sufficient and they maintain the necessary level of protection against the COVID-19.
In these centers, we have prepared the special rooms for these COVID positive patients that we might get, such that we are going to observe social distancing. We also take care of them, take care of their needs for the period that they will be there.
Joseph Karanja, the principal KMTC Thika, revealed that through the collaborative initiative with the Ministry of Health, the college had already secured all bedding and other necessities, making it ready to accommodate at least 50 persons put in isolation. Kiambu County established Karuri Medical Training College and Kiambu Institute of Science and Technology as other quarantine centers with the capacity to isolate 175 patients collectively. Judith Cherono, NTV.
Detectives from the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission have arrested 4 county officials in Kilifi over alleged misappropriation of funds involving the construction of a COVID-19 center. Among those that have been arrested include the county secretary, 2 officers from the health department and the finance county executive. Detectives are still looking for the head of procurement, whom they say has gone into hiding and has switched off his phones. ESCC says that the county officials will be charged with obstructing investigations, claiming that the officers denied to submit documents involving the tendering process. They allege that procurement laws were not adhered to in the process and that there is a possible loss of millions of shillings. A lover's quarrel has resulted in the death of one person, leaving another nursing severe injuries in Mauko Estate, Busia town. The deadly beating by an angry mob was responding to what they thought was a mugging. The area residents now regret the violence after they came to learn that the girl who had called for help, claiming that she was being robbed of her cell phone, was the lover of the deceased. One man who was in the company of the deceased was also beaten but was lucky to escape death. Though eyewitnesses acknowledge that there has been a rise in criminal activities in the area, they say that the suspect ought to be taken through the judicial system.
Patikana kama amenyang'anya msichana mmoja simu, na duru za kuaminika pia zinasema kwamba huyu msichana ni kama alikuwa demu yake. Lakini sasa katika namna hiyo yule msichana akapiga nduru akasema kwamba mwizi. Na unajua hamaki ya wananchi wanaposikia mtu anaitwa mwizi wakawa na tamaa ya kutaka kufuata sana kujua ni kwa nini. Na walipomfuata mabeating zikaanza, kugotwa kukaanza. Wakamgota kabisa, wakaleta yule mwingine kuwauliza wanatoka wapi.
Nimesikia kwamba ni maneno ya mapenzi imeenda murama. Ukweli ndio huo. Na mapenzi ikienda murama ni lazima mtu atasema ni mwizi. Lakini tunataka polisi ambao wako hapa waanze kuchimbua habari hizo.
Human rights activists have called on the police to move with speed and find 3 of their colleagues who went missing along the Thika road last month. The activists say they have searched police stations and morgues, but with no results.
In the late April, 3 human rights activists disappeared. 3 weeks later, their colleagues are yet to see or hear from them. Now the search has turned to morgues across the country. According to the police, Michael Jehu, Adan Mohammed and Samuel Mugai disappeared on April 24th and were last seen on Thika Superhighway. The vehicle they were using, a Toyota Ractis of registration number KCX 843M, was found abandoned the following day in Githurai 45 and later towed to Githurai police station. The 3 were human rights defenders at Kiamako Social Justice Center in Nairobi.
Recently, human rights defenders have been coming under attack. Human rights defenders have been disappearing. Others have been tortured and beaten. And this trend has to stop, because whatever it is that human rights defenders are doing, we are doing our job as mandated by. Walipitia Thika Superhighway, highway ambayo iko na cameras nyingi, CCTV cameras za kutosha, na ile gari ambayo wanatumia ilijulikana, ilipigwa picha katika highway hiyo. So we are calling on the police, because we know that they have enough intelligence system to be able to track these individuals.
The human rights community says it suspects they might have been abducted, tortured and killed. In the last 6 months, the hospitals in Voi and Makindu have recorded 16 bodies of unknown persons, some discovered from Tsavo National Park. Pilotino, NTV.
Well, time to take a short break right now. Don't go away, much more coming up on the other side of the break. See you then.
If we continue to behave normally, this disease will treat us abnormally.
Sonadol Extra imetengenezwa kwa njia spesheli kupambana haraka na maumivu ya kichwa, mwili na hata meno. Sonadol Extra, hakika maumivu yakizidi, pata ushauri wa daktari.
Basic protective measures as guided by the World Health Organization. Clean hands frequently with soap and clean water. Cover nose and mouth when coughing and sneezing with a tissue or flexed elbow. Avoid close contact 1 meter or 3 feet with anyone with cold or flu-like symptoms. If you have fever, cough and difficulty breathing, seek medical care early. Avoid raw or uncooked animal products. Help the world put an end to the spread of respiratory diseases by sharing this message with a friend. Message brought to you by Sour Herbal Family Bath Soap.
As a news director, you also need to put a lot of consideration when it comes to preventing the spread of the coronavirus, especially here in the All right. Yes, and I think that's what I learned. When you do get a sneeze or you feel like coughing, take a tissue paper, put it on your mouth and in front of your nose and sneeze into it, then roll it down and throw it in a trash can.
Welcome back, and let's turn the crack now to international news, where the Chinese government has kicked off a new round of testing for coronavirus after the emergence of new cases of COVID-19 in Wuhan. While the Chinese thought that the worst was behind them, the reemergence of a new cluster of the virus has jolted the government back to action. The government had kept the infections under control but had continued to monitor the situation for fear of a second wave of infections. The city of Wuhan reopened on the 8th of April after a 76-day lockdown. Each district has now started conducting screenings on residents within a 10-day time limit after a notice was issued to this effect. 6 new cases were reported on Sunday and Monday in a residential compound in Donghu district. Wuhan has reported 3,869 deaths since the novel coronavirus first emerged there in December, accounting for most fatalities in China. And virus hit Iran will reopen its mosques for 3 nights over the next week so that worshippers can pray during this month of Ramadan. The Islamic Republic shut its mosques and shrines in March as part of its efforts to contain the Middle East's deadliest outbreak of the coronavirus disease. The reopening was granted for the night of Laylatul Qadr, a high point during the fasting month of Ramadan that marks when the Quran was revealed to Prophet Muhammad, but the government has sounded a note of caution as it announced that worshippers will be allowed to attend mosques and ceremonies for 3 of the next 5 nights. All gatherings will need to respect sanitary protocols to the maximum. Iran has struggled to contain its outbreak of the virus that causes COVID-19 since announcing its first cases in the Shiite holy city of Qom on February the 19th.
خودم رعایت کنم برای دیگران چیزی نشه. با توجه به این قضیه دیگه اومدم جلوی که فاصله هم که دیدم رعایت شد و اگه برمیگشتم خونه.
Twitter has taken the plunge and allowed all its employees to work from home indefinitely if they please. The decision to have workers stay at home for good, if they choose to do so, comes following the success of the measure it instituted to have staff work away from the office due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Tech giants such as Google and Facebook have allowed staff to work from home for a defined period of time. Twitter's latest move comes as businesses the world over grapple with the new norm of doing as much work as possible from home, even as scientists continue to seek a vaccine for the coronavirus. Twitter employees who will wish to return to their offices once restrictions on movement are lifted will be allowed to do so. Let's buckle down to some sports where the Swedish Athletics Association will tighten rules for athletes who train in countries with outdated out-of-competition tests, a category in which Kenya falls. August 23rd will see the Diamond League go to Stockholm, where Kenyan athletes won the men's 10,000 meters and 1,500 meters, as well as 5,000 meters women's races. Ethiopian and Kenyan athletes have won 13 titles out of the 20 on offer in the men's and women's divisions of the annual Stockholm Marathon. UEFA has insisted that it won't amend any qualification for both the Champions and Europa League. Europe's football governing body will monitor the situation, with the coronavirus pandemic having stopped football across the world. The first qualifying match of the next season Champions League was scheduled for June the 23rd, but will be pushed back until after August 20.